Good evening, everyone. Yeah, it's really a pleasure to be part here of TEDx Pace Academy Youth. No? And just like to share to you my entrepreneurial journey, I was born in Divisoria, Tondo. No? So I grew up as an entrepreneur. My parents are entrepreneurs. So in terms of a Filipino-Chinese uh, hulma, no? I'm the typical Divisoria hustler and entrepreneur. And at a very young age, I started doing business by buying stickers and selling to my classmates. But more of that, the more important thing is what happened. I really introduced myself, na kwento na pala kanina ni Grant, that I was in 32 million in debt. And I still remember I have two kids during that time, two daughters. And because of my greed and of, as greed, na-scam ako ng investment. And 32 million was quite a big number, I would say. I called up my pastor that day. I still remember that day and asked him, Pastor, this is my situation. I'm in debt and I don't know what to do. And his advice to me was, Steve, even if it takes you a lifetime to pay your debt, pay it. And I said, Pastor, yes, even if it takes me a lifetime. I'm a very ambitious person, competitive, and I said maybe in 2 years' time I'll be able to pay off my debt. No, pursige, all the go, trying to make sure that I'm able to pay off my debt. But the reality strikes. You have around 30 creditors calling you up. When will you pay? All of this came crashing down. Having sleepless nights. I still remember. My friends will help me out with the milks of my two daughters kasi wala talagang budget for milk. And I still remember one of my aunties came into my house demanding payment. And I have this Nara table and chair. And I told her, Auntie, whatever you like in our house, you can get it. And she got the table and chair. So this moves on. And on my fourth and fifth year of paying my debt, I really got discouraged because I could see my friends having new house, new cars. And for me, I'm still paying off my debt. No. And I would say each and every one of us will experience our desert experience. And was my desert experience. And I get reminded from the Bible, Romans chapter 5, verse 3 to 5, saying, Rejoice in your suffering, because in your suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. I never know when will I be able to pay off my debt. How many years? But I was hopeful that one day God will make a miracle. No? And I like to share this video. Can you please play? Of what happened next. So I My wife is here. I still remember I was writing a check for 32 million pesos, but it was for a purchase order. And I said, how God was so faithful. During that time, I don't know how to pay off that 32 million debt. But as of today, I was just writing a check for 30 million peso purchase order. And that is how God has been faithful in my life, how you can walk through the desert and always be hopeful that the promised land will come. No? And I'd like to share three lessons in my entrepreneurial journey. No? And most of the speakers have spoken about failure and everything. I always say it's okay to fail because failure is an event. It is not a person. Remember it. Most of us, we try not to fail, but it's okay to fail because it's our preparation for something bigger and better. No? Second lessons that I like to share is the bamboo tree principle. How many of you have planted a mango seed? Can I see a raise of hands? Yeah, di ba? Here in Pace, we always plant a mango No? Remember when you planted a mango seed, after a few days, you planted it in a water and also planted it in the soil. And after a few days, it will grow into a plant. If you planted a sambaguita flower, sambaguita seed, after a few weeks, you'll be able to see a sambaguita tree that bears so much sambaguita flowers, no? Naalala ko kasi I keep on making those garlands to sell it to my friends. But when you plant a bamboo tree, it will take you 5 years before you could really see it grow. But after 5 years, that bamboo tree will grow to 100 feet. So maybe right now, the first questions that I would like to ask you, gusto yung maging monggo o maging bamboo? No? Just remember, if you're planting, watering that plant, we are all being watered. Maybe it's your just year 1, year 2, you don't see any growth. But remember, you are like a bamboo, spreading, building its roots so that you'll grow up strong and, better. And last principle that I like to share is the Mongol pencil story. Nakakita na ba kayo ng Mongol pencil? Yan, no? So, the purpose of a Mongol pencil is to what? Kids, to write on, di ba? But you have friends that what do you see? Niyangat-ngat nila yung eraser, di ba? O pangkamot ng mga no? Remember, a pencil has its purpose. The purpose of the pencil is to write on. Number 2, principle that you can learn, a pencil is meaningless without a hand. Just like in our life, we need guidance. We need a mentor, spiritual guidance. For me, it's my Lord Jesus Christ that enable, to help me out with my purpose. Number 3, a pencil needs to be sharpened. Tama? Ngayon, hindi ko lang sure kung meron pang ganun o ngayon na nga, ganun na, no? But a pencil without being sharpened cannot write, cannot be precise or effective. So it's very important that we need to learn to sharpen ourselves. But sharpening is sometimes hurtful. That's why we experience a lot of things that sometimes it hurt us. But I would like to ask you, do you ask it, why is it happening to me? But the more important thing is, what am I being prepared for? That's why you're being sharpened. And another thing that we can learn is a pencil always has an eraser. It doesn't mean that you make mistake, that's it. You can always erase it. And last but not the least, your life is like a pencil. You can either make a love letter or even a masterpiece. The more important part is you need to make a mark, not only in our generation, but in the next generations to come. So God bless. Have a great day ahead.